Okay, so we'll do this Manjushri prayer. Lama dangam bo jambo yang la chanza lo kange londe jinyen jinda nidara namda rabza ven jinyen deng jijin zijre nijin dogare lekbam zen konda sebe Zenroya mare mendo ndonga enjizere dozo kunla puji tarze yenla enjuji yandenzo rudara enchejo nyemo nyelo leje enchajo ndolze mare menze ndonga enyugo Jinyen jenze ralje nam denen dajin saje tarze yenden lezo jazen tuvengo jodan jodan chunyen jenje dale menze jambe yonla ende umara bazana de 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 umara Umara Bhajana Deo Mara 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 Bhajana Deo Umara Bhajana Deo Mara 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 Umara Bhajana Deo Mara Bhajana Deo Umara Bhajana De Zeden Jeje Genro Vizre Dalen Demo Member of Zane Kadan Denje Jonlo Tobai Lodre Bobe No Enzando Zun Jingo Redan Jingo Janze Jada Kadin Zonda Majiba Balo Jinji Jijabeja Jindo Jima Meva Languera Dutude Kosum Guba Chimbi Gunen Chanza Jinjabzo Ju Shivan and Zaratam Jedu Tuji Jesu Zimbraze Duzo Kongi Jazando Yemengam Gezer Zimbe Nora Jin Zimbe Zive Zendum Barvendo Kun Mikin Duzijur Tuji Dama Kune Shurin Jiden Sumji Konjabi Tuombe mo garbe jabe tirin dale yenzuro shon ujenzo lembe mendon bozere jave namdo ranje njedo zenzo beje denjon barwe pe manjune dale yenzuro shon gombolo duarian dewa dan tome nyen cholan chujeda chujun shanam nyimba ozo zamlin jenjo nanje da e shon Pari Degaran Jenin Bengulo, Yenden Jonga Veshasardo, Nimbi Denzi Bebe Nanjaraba, Lonjen Ranjam Jabjen Da Ejon, Rikon Jamba Shunan Chinable, Gombe Lonle Po Peter Jedro, Londo Chenzen Jenzen Owanger, Mipam Jambi Anje Da Ejon, Kongi Dola Ripolo Badan, Dojiten Jeminga Nanglazo, Labazada, Ungurushin Lambe, Muju Tinchen Lamen Da Ejon, Namonguru, Jenin Bomen Dunji Jezala, Kunjaranjun Tuji Jimbejin, Tuji Galaka Mendanawa. Palden Lamin Jabjin Da Ejon, Yende Sanje Kunda Nyanaya, Kadin Sanje Kunel Habigun, Sari Lamin Jala Suande, Pasun Rue Lamna Jala Injur, Kondo Jujur Dongi Jidena, Deje Lamar Jurba Kansuda, Tindir Dambi Chujin Charbebe. Sembra devan da dandir jeje namarian damba laike dan lo dan jinge ndugum da dami ke nam dan dua kunji danam jizambar tamje ke do sosuru te gyurje manjurin dua namka danyam be simjen tamje namdul tenji dewa la namme ba yanda warzo bi sanji jingo kwaram barchela chine jango brasha Teiche do tegwa chimbe shunglo chanchu simbi chasi chimbo shiwa la teni jizebe chanchu simbi choba lan jukwa teni tsushindu sene nyamso langwar gyo nyamdo samba chanchu chodo tujeba danche de sense halls. So mhm, mm, uh, as first the to have this right intention or motivations to begin to this activity, meritorious activity of teaching and listening. So we need to generate this awakened mind in this way. Begin or start with the ones dearest who really one wants to support and protect and help, and the same that sense try to spread it out towards all other sentient beings, try to look rest of the other beings same as that being that who you consider as the dearest, and then how you willing to support whichever way you could, and then that same sense also try to generate spread it out with the rest of others, and then the most greatest help, support is to free them from cyclic existence and its cause, which is karma and afflictive emotions, and then to how to say lead them to complete enlightenment, and that will going to be the most greatest support and help ever that if anyone who ever to provide. So therefore try to have that kind of willing to benefit all other beings, to free them from cyclic existence and its cause, and then to lead them to complete enlightenment, willing to support in this way, and for this purpose that I will going to engaging into this meritorious activity of listening Dharma, then particularly this Mahayana scripture, which is composed by Shantideva, the way of Bodhisattva's life, and then whatsoever I understand the meaning that I will going to implement it with that kind of intention, listen this Dharma teaching. And in additional or beside this fundamental in the awakened mind, and then listen carefully in an excellent way, and then try to implant it meaning and its word as much as one could, with that kind of preparation, and listen this Dharma teaching. And then this actual teaching, the way of Bodhisattva's life, as often I'm repeating this all the time, which has 10 chapter, 4 theme, and 6th chapter we already studied with the 2 theme which we completed. The first theme, how to have this awakened mind within oneself, and the second theme is how not to let it go away or transgress, or if transgressed it, how to repair it, rebuild it. and that we covered through. And then now, today we are here in the third theme, the further how one can uh, improve or developed, and until what stage, until what destiny there's a possibility that one can improve or develop this bodhicitta further. For that theme, that this instruction introduced by this seventh, eighth, and ninth chapter. So first, we are here in the seventh chapter, which is in order to further improvement or develop this our bodhicitta. What require is the diligence. The diligence is the one uh, key factor which could help us to improve our bodhicitta. To have that diligence, and then we need to kind of like the acknowledged ourselves that the contraries, which kind of sense or which kind of things that prevent us to develop our this sense of diligence, and which is the laziness. So freeing oneself from the laziness, it's what it called the diligence. And free oneself from the laziness, and then to have a enthusiastic or the diligence or perseverance, and to further development this bodhicitta, and how to do that. And that's all uh, instructing from this seventh chapter. And so far we are already covered until this stanza 16, that within this stanza 16, that the we already, that in order to kind of like the lay it law or the extinguish the laziness. So here Shantideva introducing. So first we need to understand there's three types of laziness, which are kind of like a laziness of procrastinations, the laziness of clinging to unwholesome actions, and the laziness of discouraging oneself. So among these three, the first, how to work with this uh, kind of like a reducing or extinguishing the laziness of procrastinations, we already completed. And then the second one, the how to reduce or extinguish the laziness of clinging to unwholesome actions, which is kind of like a very brief, in short, and covered by this yesterday, those two stanza, the stanza 15th and stanza 16th. But as I said, mentioned yesterday as well, the within this two stanza is actually containing the whole seventh chapter's theme. So that it is kind of like a brief instruction of whole theme of the seventh chapter here provided. And then from stanza 17, elaborating how to kind of like the kind of, how to say, reduce or extinguish this, the laziness of the clinging to unwholesome actions. And within that laziness, and then the third type of laziness is also including within it the laziness of discouraging oneself, that in the 16th chapter, that you will see the first word, do not be downcast, and that is exactly talking about the laziness of discouraging oneself. So now from this, the stanza 17 particularly elaborating how do not be downcast, how to, how uh, how that one could do not be downcast. Then that meaning is elaborating. And then it is here that mentioning. And this is also that from here, this stanza 17th and until the stanza 31st. As until the stanza 31st, they actually in until stanza 30, but this 31st stanza is also including within it. Anyhow, so you can just briefly understand here from this stanza 17 to 31st, which is almost 15th stanza. This 15th stanza, mainly what Shantideva instructing is how to reduce or extinguish the laziness of discouraging oneself. That's the main theme from this stanza 17th to 31 within this 15th stanza. Um, so this is also elaborating meaning that as we described in this stanza 16, do not be downcast, right? So the do not be downcast. How do not be downcast? And that is elaborating how do not be downcast from this 17th to 31st. Okay, now let's look how Shantideva's instructing or guiding that to reduce or extinguish this sense of laziness, of discouraging oneself. So first, he's letting us contemplate upon this one. Dagi changchup kalashi gilukpani mejates ditar deshin shekbani demba songbe dendi songs drangbu shadrang bungwadang 대신 심부르 강줄바 대장 쯩비 톱게나 장축 톱가 라메 톱 다다 리키 미르게라 펜다뇌비 모셰베 장축 줘바 마다나 다기 장축 치미토스 within this three stanza he's providing the one guideline how to reduce and extinguish this sense of discouraging oneself laziness. As how they translated into English here is how, but oh, but how could I become enlightened? Don't excuse yourself with such a despondency. Despondency? Despondency. The Buddha, the why? Because the Buddha who declared the truth has truly spoken and proclaimed that if they bring forth strength of perseverance or diligence, right? Even beasts and flies and nuts and grubs, is it? Will gain supreme enlightenment. So hard to find. And if by birth and lineage of humankind I am able to distinguish good from ill and do not leave aside the Bodhisattva's deed, why should I not attain the state of Buddhahood? So this is one kind of like what do you call it? The method that Shantideva's, one guideline that Shantideva's giving us to contemplate upon this meaning. So we should contemplate upon this meaning to reduce or extinguish our this laziness of discouraging oneself by thinking in this way. And this kind of way of thinking is actually even does in a mundane kind of like the what do you call it, boosting, is it boosting, even in a mundane boosting, even to do the business, this kind of sense is needed, even to do a farm, even to do a study, even to be a kind of like a, even to be a political leaders, you need this. Oh yeah, I can do it. Why not? If he can do it, I can do it. That's simply we in English, I think they have saying this one, right? If he can do it, I can do it. And likewise, this is now really kind of like a, in a one hand, like a in Buddhism, there's a no discriminations as long as you are able to practice this bodhisattva, regardless what color you are, regardless what gender you are. Here, that Buddha and Shantideva, all of them, they are not talking about any gender here. They are not talking about any color here. Even they are including these bees can attain enlightenment. Oh, really? If bees can attain enlightenment, if that kind of enlightenment is even possible to bees, then to human goes without saying, isn't it? So this is actually not to just to courage, but this is fact too. It is not just to courage. And it is fact too. The fact and couraging together. The way we are thinking in this, it's not something we are making up, which is something we are not kind of like a deceiving ourselves, even though we cannot do it really, but just pushing, oh, you can do it, you are nice. It is not polite, actually. This is not politing uh, that some people, they used to say, right? Even though you are not really good, but to just to give some sense of courageous, that they will say, oh, you are so good. That's not the case here. It is not politing to encourage others. This is all encouraging others based in a fact, not based in a fake. Um, so this idea is actually even be utilizing quite often, even in a mundane achievement, such as in order to become a businessman, in order to become a, I don't know, in order to become whatever, like a good farmer, or what to call a good household, or good in defeating enemies, and good in achieving what one wants, what one wants, right? What one wants, and to any kind of this kind of even small achievement of very temporary short achievement, success. And this sense is, it's very that we using quite often. And here this, if the same idea also using for the great achievement such as a liberation and further enlightenment. Yes, definitely this is something needed. But this kind of things, it's suppose not we should just listen one time and then forget. This kind of things we should think again and again, occasionally, time to time, and especially when we are really losing our temper. When we are really losing our temper, when we are really losing the hope of achievement, enlightenment. That is the specific occasion, the moment that we need to look this kind of guidelines and contemplate on it. And then after contemplating on this, and we need to have sudden sense of firmness, determination. Yes, this is it. And regardless whether what I sense or not, doesn't matter. It is really fact that anyone can achieve enlightenment, which means I also including within this anyone. Even those animals have this potential. Then why I am not? Why I should feel myself it is something I cannot do it. That's kind of the guideline that whatever Shantideva provided here, the method, that we must use this uh, occasionally, oftenly, and particularly that when we are really losing our hope, when we are really losing our kind of like a temperament, is it temperament? When we are really losing our temper, yeah, when we are very losing our temper, and during those specific especially moment that we have to utilize these guidelines to contemplate and meditate upon this meaning. So here one way, I just want to remind you here, this is something side note. Meditation not necessarily just sit and think nothing, and contemplating and thinking this kind of guideline, and the also considering as a meditation. Always remember that meditation has two way: analytical meditation and what do you call it, the other one, analytical meditation and um, what's that? In Tibetan we used to say chegom and jogom. Hmm? Oh, there's another word. Now I could not remember that. Analytical meditation, and there's another one meditation which is like a completely try to seize all concept. But anyhow, my point here is to saying analytical meditation, contemplating on this meaning, and then thinking very with a very calm mind, and trying to bring this courageous within oneself out of contemplating upon this meaning. It's analytical meditation, and that is also meditation, that is also accumulates great amount of merit as well. So don't it is not necessarily that if we do meditations that we need to seize all our concept. Completely no concept. That is not only one way. Okay, there's also another way, the meditation. So contemplating upon all these meanings that whatever here provided by Shantidevas in this way of Bodhisattva's life, and occasionally that especially at that during that moment whenever you need it the most, and utilizing them and thinking and contemplating upon them, it's also the meditation, which is analytical meditation, which is also kind of like a very useful to do it, very meaningful to do it, rather than kind of like a concepting about all these mundane chores, all these mundane things. It is much more worth than kind of like a spending our time thinking all these mundane things and mundane entertainment and gossiping and conceptualizing about our own past and futures and all this kind of like a mundane achievement, past and future. Okay, I'm not talking about the spiritual. If we are spending thinking, concepting about the past and future, how to develop the spiritual, then that is also kind of like a essential, that is also worth. Anyhow, so in short, this is also, you need to understand that all of us, we need to understand that contemplating upon all this guideline, it's also meditation. And this kind of contemplation, when we need, is specifically when we losing our temper, or when we losing our hope in our spiritual journey, particularly to achieving enlightenment. When we lose that kind of hope, then we must use these contemplations to bring our hope back. Um, kind of like a, so what do you call that? Here, normally people does this. Yeah, we human does these things that it is saying here. Oh, but how could I become enlightened? How could I become enlightened? Because we think ourselves enlightened means kind of like the free of emotions, right? Free of emotions, and then free of creating, kind of engaging into demerit activities. And then for me, living in this world, and particularly this very modern world in town, like cities, where is so many kind of like a competitions and forcement to engage into all these demerit activities and emotions, and how from the basically I have strong emotions, and my job itself and my society, my community, my this city and government, everything pushing me to engage into those demeritorious activities. So, therefore, for me to free from this kind of engaging into demeritorious activity and free myself from emotion, it's impossible for me by living in these societies, living in this country, city. This is something we excuse. That when we kind of like the so therefore this enlightenment, it's something telling oneself, this is actually convincing ourselves, we are convincing ourselves that enlightened is not for me. This is, it is not good conveniencing, but we do this convenience. We do convince ourselves that, oh, spiritual path is not for me at this moment. Maybe later, when I have enough time, when I have enough sources, when I have enough finance support to myself to live live, survive properly, oh, then maybe it is possible for me to go and journey of a spiritual path. Other than that, or maybe it is not really possible for me. We are just telling ourselves this and convincing ourselves and to push away this spiritual path, or particularly the enlightened. Um, in this way, that what it is, what Shakyamuni, what Shantideva was saying, don't excuse yourself with such a despondency in this way. Don't convince yourself in this way. Don't tell yourself in this way. And then to give up this spiritual journey, to particularly to try to achieve enlightenment. Don't excuse yourself in this way. Why? And then Shantideva was providing reason. Why? Because the Buddha who declared the truth has truly spoken and proclaimed. So now here, taking reference from what Buddha said, what Buddha said, actually it is very much considering the what do you call within a kind of like a, what do you call within a Buddhism, or so the person who are Buddhist, who are um, rather than Shantideva providing why his word is so important, why his word is so truthful, that he is not explaining all this reason, because he is just assuming that since you are here in the stage of training yourself into the Mahayana path, which is way of Bodhisattva's life, way of Bodhisattva, assuming obviously you know who Buddha is, who you know who Buddha Shakyamuni is, and then how his words are so kind of like a worthy is. So therefore, he is just using that. Even that Buddha, the Buddha who declares the truth, has truly spoken and proclaimed. What he proclaimed is that if they bring forth a stand of perseverance, so that now Shantideva, even Buddha proclaimed, he said this, proclaimed. How Buddha proclaimed actually in sutra, that particularly sutra called Laksanga Shubido. In that sutra, Laksang is the one person, his name. So the he that requested to teach some teaching to him, in that sutra, in that teaching, and then Buddha has proclaimed to him and then rest of the other disciples that what he exactly proclaimed is that he said in this sutra, Shen Changju Semba Ditar Yanda Jesu Lobde Kangda Sengedang, Tagdang, Chidang, Jejangdang, Chagödang, and then so on this like a Bungwa, Drangbu, Shadang, Simbu, and so forth. And if they kind of like they put effort, and then they can also achieve the lana meber changchup to changyawar gyurnas da me gyurushindu sogchriyan chi che chanchu to be zundu nyambar che nyams. That is what exactly Buddha proclaimed or taught to them. What it is mean that he's what Buddha saying that even others, that whoever follow or study and practice this bodhisattva's way, even those lion, tiger, dog, foxes, vultures, birds, and then here some of them are here that Shantideva put it. He didn't put it all of them. He put it some of them. Very small things like bees, flies, and nuts and grubs. This is all exactly Buddha said in his sutras. Not only that, even further, he said most of the other animals' names as well, as I said just before, that lion, tigers, dogs, foxes, and vultures, birds, and then bees, flies, nuts, grubs. Even they could achieve unsurpassable enlightenment. Then da mir gyurshin do so gchiran chi chir chanju to bitun nyambar ches. So then look myself, I have this human form. I achieve this human form while having this human form and having this human intelligence. Even for my life force, that one should not give up perseverance to achieve enlightenment. That's what Buddha said. Exactly in Sutra, what he proclaimed. That is what the Buddha who declared the truth has truly spoken and proclaimed. What he spoken and what he proclaimed is that, which I just read it from the sutra. And then from the sutra, Shantideva taking some of them, that if they bring forth strength of perseverance, even bees and flies and nuts and grub will gain supreme enlightenment, which is considering so hard to find normally. But if the perseverance, strength, or say, bring forth strength of perseverance, and this is very, even though it is normally considering so hard to find, but it is very possible. And then, later Buddha said, if that even they can achieve enlightenment, then Why not me being a human, right? While being a human, that what Buddha said. That according to that, what Shantideva here, what he put it like, and if by birth in a lineage of humankind, right now at the moment, that person, whoever listening here, all we are human, right? And I am able to distinguish not only just a human, but within a human also we have this intelligent, which can able to distinguish good from bad, good from ill, what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. We have this human intelligence much, much greater and stronger than those animals, as mentioned above, like bees, flies, and nut scrubs, isn't it? And since we have this much more greater and stronger intelligence, which can distinguish all the right and wrong, good from ill, and do not leave aside the Bodhisattva's deeds. With that intelligence, if and if we do not leave aside the Bodhisattva's deed, then why should I not attain the state of Buddhahood? There's no any reason that we can really excuse ourselves, actually. And this is something, the first kind of like a method that what Shantideva was um, providing here to let us contemplate and remove this kind of laziness, discouraging oneself laziness. Okay, that's the one in very general one, general method. And then from here, now kind of like a, um, what do you call raising the doubt or raising the reason for me to not willing to try to achieve enlightenment, which is when the kanglak la sokpa tang dani jikshe nas chidang yangwa mache par mombe dani jikpar ses kalba chewa changmendu lenjang tumar cheba dang udang sekdang ugdang sekdang shegyurji changchup tobar migyuro dagi changchup dubai dungal dini tso yode sungu konglak nesal chir luma tebi dungal shin memba kunjang socheji midewayi nemeshe dewe dungal mangboda shomchir mide chungzo jas. So this four stanza goes continuously and providing the another kind of like skills or methods to let us contemplate and not to discourage oneself by using this another excuse or another scapegoat. Is it scapegoat? Another scapegoat. That that I must give away my life and limbs, alarms and frightens me. If so, you say, kind of like a raising doubt. Your terror is misplaced, confused. You fail to see what is hard and what is easy. For myriads of age, measureless, uncounted, your body has been cut, impaled, burned, thrown, for times past numbering. Yet none of this has brought you Buddhahood. The hardships suffered on the path to Buddhahood are limited in their extent and linked to the pain of an incision, incision, incision made to cure the harms of inward ills. And all our doctors cure disease by means of bitter remedies. Likewise, to destroy a vast amount of pain, we should be patient with our little hurts. This is one. Okay, that's the second kind of like a guideline that Shantideva was letting us contemplate on this meaning, and then to not to discourage ourselves further, not to excuse, not to find scapegoat. That exactly to like to achieve enlightenment, that it is said that that I must give away my life and limbs, which is something impossible for me to act now. So therefore, I am frightened. It frightens me, right? Alarms, alarms. What is alarms? Fearful surprise. Alarms and frightens me. If you say so, right? If you say so. And that kind of alarms and frightens is actually, it is saying that kind of your terror, which is alarms and frightens, is actually misplaced or confused by fail to see what is hard and what is easy actually. It is so interesting here, Shantideva was saying. It is kind of like a very, what do you call a powerful message that he is given, which is sometimes, if we direct look, oh, this is something he's talking like very crazy. Actually, if we really cool down ourselves, calm down ourselves, and then think very carefully, yes, this is so powerful message that he is saying. This kind of alarms and frightens, it's misplaced, confused by failing to see what is hard, what's hard and what is easy. Actually, feeling alarms and frightenings by this kind of instructions that one must give away one's life and limbs, it is misplaced and confused by failing to see what's hard and what is easy. So, what do you think now? Is it really we misplaced it or confused by not being able to see the what is actually hurt and easy? Or we can use like this, without examine the heavy and light, just merely frighten self out of ignorant. That kind of frightens and alarms is. Why? Now Shantideva providing reason why this is kind of like a misplaced, confused. The reason Shantideva is providing later from this next stanza is for myriads of age, measureless, uncounted. We have been, that our body has been cutted many times, impaled many times, burned many times, and thrones, right? Thrown for many times in the past, like for times past numbering, right? Numbering means many times, countless. It is something like that. What Shantideva was really saying, we frightened, alarms by it. So just merely by our alarms and frightening, if kind of like a skip all these things, then maybe you are okay. But that's not the case. For myriads of ages, measureless, uncounted, your body has been cutted, implate, burn it, thrown for times past numbering. Yet none of all this kind of like the sacrifice, none of those sacrification, right? None of those sacrification, or we call this sacrification or not, somebody maybe forcefully cut it our head, somebody forcefully burned ourselves past many times, right? Somebody thrown forcefully without sacrificing ourselves, and somebody impaled us, impelled us in the times past numbering. Yet none of those, even one action, even one sacrification has brought to ourselves the Buddhahood. In one hand, you see, we have also, on the other hand, we have also so many very powerful histories in the past that people are giving their life and limbs for the sake of others. These are great. Their sacrification brought in themselves the Buddhahood, yes. Right? Even our generation, there have been such a person like this who sacrificed their life and limbs for the sake of others. I think we have few examples even within our generation, isn't it? Such as, tell me one, Manu.
I can't think of the man's name, but there's a man saved several people's lives when a gunman entered a room by trying to disarm him and sacrificing his life.
He lost his life?
He lost his life.
Where?
He was in Tasmania.
Tasmania.
Tasmania over 30 years ago.
Okay, so like that. That kind of many history even happening today.
Yeah, every day.
And this is something, yes, it is for them, that is not become, yet none of this has brought Buddhahood. No. Yet, yes, of them brought to them, brought Buddhahood to them. You see? But on the other hand, there's also many of them, right? Okay, so the main point, Shantideva, the reason what he's providing, the reason is how this kind of like a alarms and frightens oneself by thinking of this way of bodhisattva's practice, by giving away one's life and limbs, are misplaced and confused by not being able to fail to see what is hard and what is easy. So he is providing reason why it is misplaced and confused. Because for myriads of age, measureless, uncounted, your body has been cut, impaled, burned, thrown for times past, numberings, yet none of this has brought you Buddhahood. The hardship suffered on the path of Buddhahood now here. On the other hand, taking that hardshipness, like sacrificing one's life and limbs and so forth, suffered on the path to Buddhahood, right, are limited in their extent. Person who does this and number are limited, their extent. Such as a historical proven by Shakyamuni Buddha himself, actually. One thing, Shakyamuni Buddha himself, he proved this. Because before this Shakyamuni Buddha, how many lifetimes that some of his life, he sacrificed his life and limbs for the hungry tiger mother. Likewise, there's many other histories that he sacrificed while he born as a deer, while he born as a rabbit, while he born as a even as a human beings. He sacrificed his life. Yeah, he gave away his life and limbs. And here Shantideva was saying are limited in their extent. Yes, it is limited in their extent. So now after Shakyamuni Buddha achieved enlightened, then no more he needs to do all these things. No more he needs to kind of like sacrifice his life and limbs. And then that's numbers are limited. That's the hardship suffered on the path to Buddhahood. That what one very historical example is Buddha Shakyamuni himself, that he took it, all this hardship suffered on the path to Buddhahood. And those are limited in their extent, what Shantideva was saying. Yes, he proved it. Shakyamuni Buddha actually proved it. It is limited in their extent. Once anyone become Buddha, then you don't have to do this anymore. But on the other hand, even though we don't sacrifice our life and limbs voluntarily, but as long as we are in this samsara, and this is unlimited in their extent, we must give up our heads, limbs, life for our own sake, for our own family sake, let's say. Most of the time for our own sake, for our own pleasure, for our own happiness. Many things happening, right? Even in this world right now. If I give a very rough, kind of like a brute example, this is strange, but I will speak up this one. Let's say some either regardless of gender, they try to prostitute themselves, let's say. They're trying to prostitute themselves for their own sake, their own pleasure, happiness, to make some money to live their life, right? But even for that sake, when they really do that, and then they stuck, even sometimes they lost their life. And most of the times they got abused, right? Abused, and I don't know, sometimes break limbs, broken leg, broken face, broken teeth, broken eye,
Broken mind.
broken mind is for sure. That is from the beginning. But even physical, I'm talking about here, physical. That physical, here it's talking about physical life and limbs. This is something I'm just giving you very brute, rough example. And through this example, many other similar examples we can utilize it. This is very rough example. But likewise, for our own sake of pleasure and happy, very short temper happy, right? Very short happy. For very short happy, we human do lose our limbs, and worst, our life. How many cases we are seeing in television news every day around the world and within a country, actually, even around the world? Yes, almost every day going on like that kind of activities, right? When we watch those news, oh, here somebody abused somebody, here, oh, there somebody shoot someone, oh, there somebody stabbed someone. How they get stabbed? Actually, they are not going to that specific locations to get stabbed. Actually, they are going to that particular locations to gain some pleasure, gain some happiness, not to get this stabbed by others. We do this quite often. But none of this, yeah, this is what Shantideva was saying, none of those sacrification brought us the Buddhahood. It is not something you frighten of it and then you can, that just by frightening, you will going to skip it. Actually, we are not skipping this one as long as we are in this samsara. So Shantideva, what he is really saying in a one way, in a very, it seems like very crazy way. In a one hand, what he's really trying to saying is like, since you have to lose this, why don't you lose this for the sake of other beings? So which brings you enlightened. So this will going to be end. You can end your all these problems. That is what he is talking about. The frightened and alarms are misplaced and confused. Lacking of able to see the what is actually hurt and what is easy. Does this really encouraging? And link to the pain of an incision made cure the harms of inward ills. And that is also true, right? Sumu Kongla Nesalchi, Lima Tebi Dungalshin. For instance, kind of like that we do this surgery, right? Nowadays, actually, technology a little bit developed, so we may need to change this idea a little bit. During this Shantideva time, I think it is like that. When you need to do surgery, not really you have this all kind of like a, what do you call it? Huh? Anesthetic. Anesthetic, which makes you numb, which makes you completely numb. So during his time, there's no such a anesthetics. Therefore, Shantideva using this example. May this example not working nowadays. But it's still maybe, I think it's still we need to bear a little bit hardship there to cure our inside organ disease, such as a cancer or whatsoever. When they really do surgery, when they really try to get rid of the pull off this all diseases, tumors and everything, there's so many pain that you must bear to cure that disease. So many difficult that one must bear it. But we voluntarily bearing it, isn't it? That those things. We think this is something I should voluntarily, willingly. And then doctors are also doing this with the proud. They making others this kind of pain with the full of confidence. They think you have to bear it. Anyway, you have to bear it. This is okay. You're okay. This is nothing compared with your real ill, your real disease. So, okay, bear with it and cut to do it. All the jobs, right? Doctors also doing this with the full of confidence that one must bear it with it. Even though we have this developed, this in what do you call it? What is it? In that those pills that which makes us numb. Anesthetics, yeah. Even though nowadays we have this anesthetics, but still we have to take some hardship and pain to cure our disease. So what Shantideva was saying is that for the sake of enlightenment, sacrificing one's limbs and life are like that. This is what Shantideva is saying, one thing. And all our doctors cure disease by means of bitter remedies here, right? By means of bitter remedies. Likewise, to destroy a vast amount of pain, we should be patient with our little hurts. Okay, this is another kind of like a method that Shantideva letting us to contemplate on, and then don't discourage ourselves and remove this sense of laziness, discouraging oneself. But yet, there's this third one, but yet, what do you call it? Soje palba nindrawa memba chogi mazede choga shindu jambu I nechen pame sowarzes. Sema laso jimbala jimbe thomar jorwaze dela komne chinene rimji rangishayang tong. Gangse rangi lulani se sok tabi lo sheba de se shazla sok pongwa dela kawa chishigiyes. And also, Dikpa Ponchir, Dungal me Kepichina Megamen, Ditar Lover Tobadan Dikbe Semna Lulane. Sonam Kini Ludela, Kepe in Semdena, Shendun Korwa Nekani, Injichenda Chide Kyos. That now, within this kind of like a 24 stanza to 28, those 5 stanza provides the another method. Further, it is all related with the second method as well. Okay, so this third method kind of like a related, joined with this second method. So far, what Shantideva said, actually, this all our doctors cure our diseases by means of bitter remedies. Likewise, to destroy vast amount of pain, we should be patient with our little hurts. One thing, think this way and don't discourage ourselves. But that is not exactly that how normally we take hardship to cure our disease by being patient with those bitter remedies from our doctor. The doctor here, like Shakyamuni Buddha, that who try to heal our diseases, our problems, and our difficulties, are actually the way of healing or the method, the skills that what the doctor of Buddha's doing is much more kind of like a skillful than those ordinary doctor. That it is saying, it is translating from this stanza 24. And yet the supreme healer does not use. The supreme healer refers to Buddhas. Like them, these common remedies with the way of extreme tenderness, he soothes away intense and boundless suffering. You see, one way what Shantideva was saying is, even though it is hardship, but if we really look the worth of that hardship, it's worth to bear with it. One thing. And then now further, even this is, I'm just telling you those how ordinary doctor use the bitter remedy to cure our disease. So we must bear with it. But on the other hand, the supreme healer, like those, the extraordinary doctors like Buddhas, they they won't do as this ordinary doctor does, to using those bitter remedies to cure the disease. Actually, the supreme healer, the extraordinary doctor, does not do this, does not use that idea, that skill, does not use like them. These common remedies with the way of extreme tenderness, he soothes away intense and boundless suffering. How? Then Shantideva was saying, our guide instruct us to begin by giving vegetable greens or other little things that later, step by step, the habit once accurate, is it accurate? Acquired. Yeah, acquired. We may be able to donate our very flesh. So this is something Shantideva on the other hand saying, you don't have to really worry sacrificing your life and limbs from the very beginning. This extraordinary healer, the extraordinary doctor will not going to ask you to do this for your sake of enlightenment from the beginning. No, you don't have to worry about it. He will kind of like with the ways of extreme tenderness, he will guide you there step by step. He will make sure that you're really able to do this without having kind of like a regret, remorse. So that's how he step by step let us build this habit. And then this habit, once accurate, right? Accurate or kind of like acquired or success, right? Success, complete, gained. Yes. Then at that very moment, there's not such difficult. Uh, then we may be able to donate our very flesh as well. Because the reason Shantideva saying is because for when we truly feel our bodies are not really different from the given herbs or vegetables, greens, right? What hardship can there be in giving up, relinquishing our very flesh? We don't really have hardship giving vegetable and grains and herbs to others, right? Through this mind training, this is something now Shantideva saying, this is very possible if we train ourselves in generosity. Then that kind of stage, until that kind of stage, we can improve, develop our sense of generosity. And when we build this habit by constantly engaging into this kind of activity of generosity, that makes even this our really body not really different than those things. When one reach to feel oneself, one's own body, not really different than those vegetables, then what hardship can there be? Just like giving vegetables to someone is not really hardship. So when you really feel your body not really different than vegetables, then what hardship can there be? This is what it is talking about. Until you reach to that kind of a stage, you don't have to give up your life and limbs. That's what Shantideva was saying. Until that stage, you just train according to your capacities to go to Buddhahood, go to enlighten, go they practice the spiritual path. Practicing a spiritual path, particularly the Mahayana path, it's not required from the beginning you should give your life and limbs. This is not the case. When we listen those some sort of like a teachings about Buddha's history, like sacrificing, voluntarily giving his life and limbs, then maybe some Mahayana practitioner immediately think, oh, they should do this. No, no, this is not. You can do this when you get to his stage. When you get to his stage, which is when you're able to feel your body not really different than vegetables and your cups and your money. I don't know. And your clothes and your shoes. What else is there so easy to give to others? Papers, tissue paper. Maybe this during this coronavirus time very difficult to give tissue papers. That is so strange. People fighting for the toilet paper. Normally, those things are the easiest to give away. Those who are not able to give even toilet paper away, Felash, life is limbs and lives so far. This coronavirus. So this example is failed. Okay, so we should not use now, from now on, while this coronavirus exists within us, this tissue paper is the one thing that easiest to give away. No, no, no. It is one thing the difficult is to give away, like our life and limbs, maybe. So this example is not working at the moment. Okay, we may use some other example. What? What else? Sanitizer may be the most easiest to give away. Still it is. So what is the easiest way to give away right now?
Oh, the rubbish bin.
Rubbish bin?
Yes, when you take it out to the front.
A rubbish bin. Yeah. Yeah. So the rubbish bin. Through mind training, when one feel one's own body like a rubbish bin,
Well, that's a good
then what hardship can there be in giving up, relinquishing our very flesh? This one, Shantideva also guiding, telling us this is something in place. What he used to say before, implaced and confused, right? The alarms and frightenings, frightens are misplaced and confused by not being able to see what is hard and what is easy. So this kind of practice not really necessarily requiring to people like us who are begin to journey on this Mahayana spiritual path. We don't need to worry about that. We just train to give our vegetables and garbage bins to other people's. We train with it. And step by step, then one day when we feel our body not really different than the garbage bin, then at that time we can do that. No need to be rush. This is also telling here. So therefore, on the other hand, this third method, what Shantideva was saying is, Actually, the second method, the way you think it is, the alarm and frightening is misplaced and confused by failing the what really able to distinguish the hardshipness and lightness, heaviness and lightness. One thing. And then here in this third method, when he providing, actually this is not required to you. You must train yourself by giving vegetables away, not your life and limbs. Yet, you will do this kind of generous when you really feel your own body not really different than vegetables. Then, at that moment, you will do this. You don't have to be so rash. And this is not Buddhas will going to teach to all those beginner Mahayana spiritual student. You don't need to worry that. That's what he's mean here. And then, since has been abandoned, thus there is no pain. Through having wisdom, there is no more sorrow. For so it is that mind, the body, both are injured by false view and sinfulness. So it is saying, yeah, Digpa Pangchir Dungame Kebichina Mingame. Since has been abandoned, thus there is no pain. Now, actually, this 27 and 28, Shanti was giving another reason that why those bodhisattvas who are able to sacrifice, give their life and limbs to others, why they do not have pain and sorrow within both physically and mental. He's providing reason here, this 27 and 28 actually. That how sin has been abandoned by doing this, right? Not sins, sorry. Sin has been abandoned. Therefore, thus there's no pain for those bodhisattvas who are able to do this. And through having wisdom, there's no more sorrow. They have these skills that they have this wisdom and skills. They don't really feel their own life and limbs, not really other than vegetables. So therefore, there's no sorrow, right? Giving vegetables away, it doesn't bring any sorrow, right? This is what Shantideva was saying. They have this wisdom to able to understand, feel their own body not really different than the vegetables, greens, herbs. So therefore, they will not have sorrow in their mind, both mind and body, physical. Physical will not going to have a pain because they have this painkiller. Okay, it is kind of like a painkiller. They convincing themselves sin has been abandoned by doing this. Okay, so this will boost their, remove their pain and boost their willing to give their body to others. This is such kind of like a painkiller. And through having this wisdom, really kind of like a feeling, confident, determinations, this phenomena, it's not really different than the vegetable phenomena. Not really differentiating this within these two different phenomena. then how we will not going to be a sorrow by giving vegetables away? Same. It becomes same at that stage, at that moment. So therefore, they don't have this sorrow in their mind. That's what Shantideva was saying, providing the reasons why those great bodhisattvas, when they reach to that stage, when they are able to feel their own body, none other, not different than vegetables, at that moment, why they will not going to have a pain and sorrow? Why they will not going to have a pain and sorrow? Because they, beside that, not only this wisdom, beside that, they also knew that this will going to abandon my great all the sins. It will going to abandon. Sin has been abandoned by doing this. Thus, there's no pain. Through having wisdom, and there is no more sorrow. But for the other hand, let's say normal being, or the persons who are not reached to that kind of stage of confidence within their phenomena, body phenomena, similar with the vegetable phenomena. Then, for so it is that mind and body both are injured by false views and sinfulness. Didar lobar to badan digbe sem nan lula nurse that not having that wisdom, of not being able to feel the same these two phenomena. That is false view. That's what Shantideva means here, false view. And sinfulness, that we have a lot of sinfulness, habit of carrying this strong attachment towards this phenomena. This strong sinfulness and the false view we have. Therefore, it harms or it brings the difficulties. It injures our both body and mind. Because we have this false view and because we have this sinfulness. That's why we get harmed by giving our life and limbs to others. Those great bodhisattvas who doesn't have these false views and sinful, and they are not really getting harmed by giving those up. Shantideva providing here the reason why they will not going to have a pain and sorrow. Why other than them will going to have a pain and sorrow? Likewise, continue further. Merit is their true cause of the body's. No, merit is the true cause of the body is. While happiness of mind is had through understanding. What can sadden those who have compassion, who remain within samsara for the sake of beings? Sonam kini ludela keba ini sem denas. Shenden korwar nejani inje chena kidekyo. Even those bodhisattvas needs to remain in this samsara. How they will going to feel saddened, right? Saddened. They will not going to feel saddened. How? And then that's saying, merit is the true cause of the body is. So it is saying like that they see that by remaining in this samsara, they get a lot of opportunity to accumulate merit. So therefore, they can remain their physical with a very pleasant and happiness in this samsara. And then while happiness of mind is had through understanding, because they have these skills and methods how to live in this samsara without polluting so much their mind out of this mundane and samsaras. Therefore, they will going to have a happiness within their mind. So since they have ease in their body, they have happy in their mind. And what can really make them sadden? Those who have compassion, who remain with samsara for the sake of beings. Is this really boosting now? Is this really encouraging ourselves? On the other hand, what this really Shantideva was saying, like, okay, how he is really encouraging us that one thing, you don't really need to do all these things from the beginning. So you don't need to worry. You don't have to discourage yourself. And those bodhisattvas who are able to do this, all these things, they have that kind of wisdom within themselves. And those will never going to feel kind of like unfortunate or pain and sorrow because they have all these skills beside this. They knew by doing so, they uh, helps abandoning all the sins. And they have these skills, wisdom, so therefore they will not going to get sorrow by it. What Shantideva was really saying, those great bodhisattvas, to them there's no really reason for them to not remain in the samsaras. Remaining within this samsara actually brings within themselves both mentally and physically comfort and ease and happiness and what do you call it? Satisfaction. So there's no reason for them to feel saddened by remaining in samsara. First of all, we don't have to do this from beginning, so we don't have to discourage ourselves. Second of all, once you reach to that stage, you will never going to feel saddened. So why you discourage yourself? No needed this discouragement to oneself. And then further, dene chanchup semdop ji ngunji dikba seji ji sonam yansu dujechir nyentwe nambe chokdushe dewe kyongal kunsewe chanchu semji tashune denen dewa doal semshe sushi gilu gyurs. Those 29 and 30 stanza. The another method, just kind of like a adding additional support. For through their power of bodhicitta, after training, right? After training, when to reach to that stage. And this, when you train in bodhisattva's way, former sins are totally consumed, and merit ocean was is gathered in. It's therefore said that they exhale the sharvakas. So by practicing, implementing this bodhicitta, power of this, it will going to consume all our sin or demerit, whatever we accumulated in the past, are totally consumed. And on the same time, the merit, it's accumulated, not just accumulated, but like a accumulated, graded like an ocean was merit, it's accumulated, it's gathered in. That's the reason, therefore, it's therefore said that they exhale the sharvakas. Means now, the persons who practicing this bodhisattva's way of bodhisattva's life, or training themselves into the bodhisattva Mahayana spiritual path in general, Mahayana spiritual path. By engaging into Mahayana spiritual path, the merit which the person accumulating is much more greater than those Sharvakas practitioner accumulated, with the sense of renunciation, with the sense of selflessness, with the sense of mindfulness. Whatsoever their merit, regardless, whatsoever their merit, cannot accumulate more than those person who is training in a Mahayana spiritual, who is training in Bodhisattva's way of life. For instance, it is saying like, for instance, me, if I am practicing this Bodhicitta and Mahayana spiritual path, by engaging myself into Mahayana spiritual, into this way of Bodhisattva's life, try to maintain this Bodhicitta, try to engage into all this four immeasurable, six prajna paramita practice. Through this practice, the merit which I accumulated, it is uncomparable with those Sharvakayanas practitioner who genuinely practice with the sense of renunciation and sense of selflessness. How it multiplies, I think you remember, you may remember, I told you before one time. The one way how it multiplies is based on a intention, the number of the beings. Those Sharvakas, yes, they genuinely practicing all this spiritual with the sense of renunciation and selflessness. to sake of their own self to achieve liberation. So they're practicing this for one person. But on the other hand, someone, let's say, for example, like me, who practicing this Mahayana spiritual path, the Bodhisattva's way of life, try to maintain Bodhicitta. And as much as the human beings, or not just human beings, the beings are there, that much number, the merit I am accumulating. So therefore, this true merit is incomparable. Actually, it is clearly saying those Sharvakas who practicing genuinely with the sense of renunciation and selflessness, with that view, with that basic foundations, they also practice a lot of things. Through that, they accumulate merit immense, yes. Actually, compared with the ordinary merit, their merit is immense. But that immense merit, when it compared with the Mahayana practitioners' merit, the Mahayana practitioners who accumulate the merit, when that immense merit compared with those merit, then this immense is become very little. That's what it means. That's how this Mahayana spiritual path has this kind of potential. So therefore, mounted on the horse of Bodhicitta, which puts to flight all mournful weariness, weariness. What lucid person could be in despair, proceeding in this way from joy to joy? Does it really boosting now? Does it really encouraging ourselves to practice the Mahayana spiritual path? Does it really helping us to reduce and extinguish our laziness of discouraging oneself? This is what it is for. The Shantideva, this all guidelines meant to reduce and extinguish our sense of discouraging self-laziness. This is what he meant for. Senjin Tendrup Chachir Pung Meten Gadan Dorwayin Meba Dunga Jigba Nati Pen Sambe Yes. This last stanza now, 31st. So actually within this 30th stanza, with the 4 different skills method to let us contemplate and reduce and extinguish this laziness of discouraging oneself. And now from here, connecting to further another one, which is in stanza 16, it says, but marshal all your powers, right? So how to marshal all our powers? And from here, it's beginning. The force that secures the good of beings are aspirations, steadfastness, relinquishment, and joy. So, reduce and extinguish those laziness, and engage into those four, try to gain all those four characteristics to have a genuine diligence towards our spiritual path, which is called the marshal all your powers. Marshal all our powers by generating or gaining these aspirations, steadfastness, relinquishment, and joy. And then among these four, the first, aspiration, how one should gain or have it this aspiration or grow these aspirations within oneself through fear of suffering and contemplation of the benefit to be attained. It will going to elaborate later. It is very brief right now. After reducing and extinguishing all those lazy, and what we need to engage is we need to engage into these things to progress, improve, develop our diligence. For the purpose of improving and developing our diligence, we need to engage into this. We need to gain these characteristics or qualities. And then the first quality, which is aspirations towards spiritual path. How we can gain that, how we can grow that. Its aspirations grows through fear of suffering and contemplation of the benefits to be attained. How? And they will going to elaborate before. Shantideva will going to be elaborate about this later. Okay, so today we just stop here. And yeah, so the next week, and we don't have practice. We kind of like have this medicine Buddha practice for whole 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. For the same reason, as I oftenly saying, to prevent this, many reasons, but one reason is to prevent this disease. We are doing whatever we could, but still this is not letting us go away. This is not letting us behind. It is keep coming with us. And now I have heard this even in Canada increasing. But we still need to do whatever we can to prevent. And we also doing this medicine Buddha to prevent this disease generally to the whole world, particularly to here. And also those who are infected already to get cure soon. For that purpose, we're doing this medicine Buddha practice for 2 days, next weekend. And those who are already diseased, and we are performing this practice to find their way to Pure Land, Amitabha Buddha, to born their conscious into that Pure Land so they can achieve enlightenment from their home. For these 3 reasons, one is these 3 reasons we are holding this many different practice, as we did already many of them. And this medicine Buddha we will going to do next weekend. Anyway, so then maybe we do dedication. and then to rest. Sanam de thamje zikpa nyen, thomne nyeben dranam phamje ne, shega nanche walon trubayi, siben solen doan do varsho, jambal pawe jitara kembanda, kundu zambu deyan deshen de, deda kunje jesu ndalo chin, Gewan de da thamje rabdung o, Gewan de yeshe okun, Sanam yeshe tsozo ne, Sanam yeshe le jungwe, Tamba kunyin tobar shu, Sanje kusum nyebe chen lam da, Chunye minjur dembe chen lam da, Gendin mechen dembe chen lam ki, Jidara ngwa melam drubar shu. And read in English. By this beneficial activity, may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemies, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all being tossed about helplessly by the waves of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming. By conforming to the knowledge of courageous Manjushri, Jambal Yang, and in the same way as Samendabhadra, Kundusambo, and following their example, I dedicate perfectly all this virtue. By this virtue, may all being perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, sonam, and wisdom, yeshe, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies which result from these two accumulations. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sanjay, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the infallible truth of the Dharmata, Chunyi, by the blessing of the infallible aspiration of the Sangha, Gendin, may this prayer of dedication be accomplished just as it is. Thank you and take care. See you later.